Oh, what's good, my Banner Society? It is your host with the most shadow look back at you with another video. Make sure you guys like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. It's absolutely free. That is how you have my channel get into the algorithm. Highly appreciate you go ahead and do that. Well, I was on vacation, took a little vacation, right? So, that's why I haven't been dropping videos. Gracias to the ones that, checked up and everything like that. I appreciate it. But yeah, we were just on vacation, enjoying ourselves. Now we're back, vacation over, right? So I've been getting, asked for all kinds of stuff. So it's going to take me a while to catch up. You know what I mean? So bear with me. Now, but the most that I got an ask, by far as of recently, right, what are my thoughts on this whole dropout wars and, American Cholos, opinion on this and that and, certain channels and stuff like that. Look, everyone's going to have an opinion on here, right? And it's just that their opinions, right? If they dislike certain channels for whatever reasons, that's the reasons, that they're expressing. Everyone's entitled to speak on whatever they want on their channels, and can nobody tell them otherwise. It's a free country, right? Now, I don't agree with people coming on here and lying and deceiving, in order to gain growth in their channel, right? But people are gonna do it regardless of the fact, right? Now, as one of the things that I do hear a lot is that what it is that OGs need to guide the youth, which I'm actually quite shocked that actually a lot of people would actually want that, because OGs providing guide to the youth only really means how to be smarter in getting away with crime and how to be smarter in carrying themselves that way they don't get caught up in the criminal activity, meaning busted, right? So pretty much getting away with breaking the law, which I'm quite shocked that many people would actually want that. Considering that they're law-abiding citizens, because when you're talking about providing guidance, that's all that's really only gonna stick with them, or what they're gonna want to hear out, right? These individuals, just because they're OGs doesn't mean that these individuals are gonna listen to the OGs, or that they look up to the OGs. That's one thing that people get it misconstrued, because whether maybe the movies or for whatever reasons, right? But if you live the street life, then you actually really knows how it goes. And a lot of, certain individuals don't really, look up to the OGs like that. They're kind of doing their own thing. They take their word into consideration because they've been there, done that, right? But as, let's say, them trying to throw their weight around, that's not how it works. They don't seek their word as gold, because not every OG's word is gold. Right? So you could learn, several things from OGs, but there's also certain OGs that, will teach them, obviously, dumb things, right? But they'll only listen if the narrative aligns with what they're looking for it to align with, right? So they'll only pay attention if it benefits them, or if it lines up with how they're feeling in the moment, right? So the youngster will listen as long as it lines up with what they're looking to do. Because if it doesn't, they're going to tune it out, and that's just the way it is. Remember, these young individuals are not in the right state of mind, are taking time bomb pretty much. They're not at the right state of mind when it comes to dealing with emotions and the overall magnitude of situations. Some are only living by the day, by the moment. Some live in the moment, don't really care about the future, don't really consider the future, don't even think about the future. And that is a sad, cold, true reality of the street life. You get me? So even if they were to provide guidance and stuff like that, that doesn't mean these youngsters are going to listen. These youngsters are going to do whatever makes them feel better about their overall situation in the time whenever it happens, right? And most of them are reacting on pure, anger, rage, and all kinds of fucked up shit. And that's just the true reality of the street world. You know what I mean? So all these people talking about they should provide guidance, like I said, the only ones that can fix these kids are the individuals that are not willing to have these conversations with them. So no matter if it's their OG homies, ex gang members, or priests, or cops, or counselors, the only ones that can provide guidance are the ones that are not willing to, or cannot, or don't know how to have these conversations with these individuals, right? And that's just the true reality of things. because if you provide them the best advice in the world, you can give them the greatest advice. If they're going back home to this place that's bringing them all their anxiety, all their torment, all their trauma, all their, insecurities, um, all the drama, right? It don't matter how good that advice you give them is going out, out the window. As soon as he's put back in that location, he's forgetting all about that, and his other emotions are going to take over, especially if we're dealing with, a teenager who's, going through puberty, who's, who don't even know how to, juggle all these emotions and scenarios and everything that's happening, so fast. You're going to get a whole lot of fucked up situations, right? Especially if the individual doesn't know how to talk to his child. So, this whole thing about OGs needing to provide, proper guidance, or that's what they're here for, bullshit. They're here to get money, and that's it, period. And using this as a cover up. I don't know why they just can't be honest. I mean, that's what YouTube is for, get your money, right? But at least be honest about it. Now, about the whole dropout thing, most people that are watching don't care for that kind of stuff, don't even care about that kind of stuff, right? They're not from the street world, they don't belong in the street life, or so to them it's irrelevant whether they're actually legit or not legit and all that, right? But at least when it comes to hearing them out, I would think that these individuals would actually not want to be lied to, right? And actually, if you're saying something, they, want to actually believe that you're actually are what you say you're about, right? Instead of, all these lies and telling them that you're about this when you actually never have lived through that or never been through that. If you're just honest, people will accept the truth, regardless, but certain individuals feel like they have to inject themselves in everything and feel like, they have to throw, extra sauce on their stories just to, hype them up, right? And that's where the problems lie in, you know what I mean? Especially if the stories are not about them, right? But because in the real world, people don't accept that, right? And actually, there's quite a lot of backlash for individuals that do that. So people can't even be outraged that it happens on YouTube, right? Because that is how the world, runs. People are not happy when somebody lies to them, right? And you can't be mad when somebody is merely just speaking the truth and bringing the truth. I sound like a broken record already. Right? Now creating the drama just to gain the views, just to get that, that fat paycheck on YouTube. I'm pretty sure is why a lot of individuals speak on this matter and talk about it and stir all of this up, right? Or whether they actually really truly, feel for what they're speaking about, right? But in all true reality, it doesn't really matter because this is not the streets. These are not the streets, right? So street activity gets left into the streets, not on here, right? Because people on here are not gang related, and you can't apply gang rules onto the internet and to social media. You want to push that gang agenda, you take your ass to the streets then. You can't be gangster on the internet. Regardless if you're pushing whatever, topic you're pushing, whether it's for active or non-active or whatever, right? All of that shit belongs to the streets, does not belong on the internet. But overall, that's just my opinions on the perspective of things, right? I think it's just nonsense, regardless of what point you're looking at it from, right? But hey, whatever brings the views, no? I'm saying that's my thoughts. What are your thoughts? Leave it in the comments and shadow we up.